This is the Generative AI Security Podcast, brought to you by the OWASP Top 10 for LLM apps and GenAI. We'll be talking about pertinent industry issues around generative AI with our project leads, contributors, and more. Please click like and subscribe for all of our latest content.
Hey community, Aubrey here with the OWASP GenAI Security Project. And I'm here with Ante and Kris from Splx. And we are going to talk a little bit about continuous red teaming and what that means for your AI application. Gentlemen, how you doing today?
I'm good.
Pretty good.
Thank you for the invitation.
Good. All right. It's coming up on end of day for you guys? Whereabouts are you guys in the world?
Yeah, I think we are end of the day today. We're back in Europe for some projects. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. I'm East Coast United States, so I'm just coming up on lunchtime, and then that's when everything starts to really get exciting in my day, because I work for a West Coast company.
That's why we love East Coast. You're in the middle of everything.
Well, thanks. We try to be. Just try to not be in the middle of politics these days. That's pretty much it. I just steer clear of any of that stuff.
Or as Ante used to say, New York is the center of the world. We both love the Central Park, to be honest.
I still like to say that.
Yeah. You need to explain it on the other occasion, but it's good. I like it.
Okay.
But Aubrey, how is your day so far?
Cool. My day's great now that we're chatting and recording podcasts. That's kind of like what I do. So it's good. And honestly, I'm now that you guys are talking about New York and Central Park, you're making me miss it. I used to cover a customer that was down in New Jersey, and I would stay very close to the city most of the time. And like that, staying close to New York City offers you pretty much anything you want to do at any time of day. It's a pretty amazing place. So I'm glad you guys enjoy it. For me, I'm like 6 and change hours away from that whole mess. That's a flight for me, not a drive or a train ride, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we're not here to talk about places and tourism. We are here to talk about red teaming. So that is what you guys do for a living. One of the things I wanted to kind of get, and either one of you can take this. I guess, first of all, what is the idea of continuous red teaming for people who don't know what that means? Anyone?
I can take it from a high level perspective. Basically, continuous, and we say automated and continuous red teaming because automated can mean a lot of things, but continuous is even the more important thing, because as you're starting basically today with an LLM in behind or LLM part of AI application, call it chatbot, mostly with single LLMs we used to see last year. Currently, we have some applications which use multiple LLMs in the back. Some even train their own LLMs and AI applications, and that's why as those applications then are evolving, specifically the threat landscape, when it comes to multimodal attacks, for example, we see the big need of doing those kind of continuous testing, red teaming activities, either black box, which is red teaming, or gray box testing, which is security testing with our platform. So this is how we see it, and I think, as Ante used to say always, it's still the case. I think we have only currently about 5% of the attack surface covered in the market, and the attack surface is yet to come. Because I consider myself also being a bit older in the days, and I remember the days when cloud came out, everyone was speaking about it, and cloud security really evolved after 5-6 years later after that. So think about it in the context of AI and a growing attack surface, and why continuous is important. Continuous red teaming. Yeah.
So I guess what if someone was looking to have continuous automated red teaming on their application, what are the common bag of tricks? What do people kind of need to have to make that happen? What are they looking at as far as like infrastructure or things like that?
Yeah, a good question is what they need. So first of all, everything starts from kind of development practice, because nowadays just software engineers do AI. Before they did more backend stuff, front end. So it doesn't matter what you do. The key thing is to understand when to trigger security check, test. And usually people do it in CI/CD. Nowadays, it's still a bit too early. So we try to always suggest to the clients, please tag it as a major version upgrade. When you upgrade to new version of LLM, when you significantly change your system prompt, where you significantly update knowledge base of your AI assistant, things like that. And at all those points in times, your developers should have a methodology or process to notify security team that something significant has changed. At that point, you definitely should trigger again automate security testing or AI red teaming process, because for sure there will be different results and possibly new risks. So this is one thing. You can obviously use schedulers for that and other things, but what I like most is kind of development process with clear definition of major AI assistant software upgrades. Yeah.
Okay, so that's not there's not like one specific thing that people need to kind of focus on. It's more procedural and process and use what you have is what I'm kind of hearing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Exactly.
So is it not a good idea then to just keep your security team in the dark as a coder and just, update the application? That's not a good thing. I mean, if they are continuously red teaming, they would see that, right? And it would trigger alarms. That would be the hope, I would imagine.
Yeah, so I mean, you gave the answer to the question, right? Obviously, it's not a good idea because very often people involve security team just a few days, few weeks before production, and then telling them, okay, you need to change few important things, add few security policies in the system prompt. You need to add additional output filtering because of those risks we found, and then everything crashes in terms of evaluation of the quality of your AI. Like you just are too aggressive to the user. You need to reiterate whole process, and you're like week before the productive deployment. So this doesn't work usually. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been kind of on the other side of that with trying to educate customers on how to what to do with their WAF, right? That's something I've spent a lot of time with web app firewalls over the past 15 years. And that's one of those things that I actually have always given the same kind of guidance. Like when you have a new feature in the application, when something big is happening in the app, when you're changing your database schema, that kind of thing that you might not even think. Those are things that we need to know about, and it's good to always give a heads up to the security team. So now, I guess, can you talk a little bit about web application scanning? That is kind of at the heart of this, yes? Like that is probably the most formidable technology for continuous red teaming. Is that safe to say?
You mean by use case? Or
yeah, I mean,
referring to use case of web applications.
Yeah, for web applications. I always think of applications as web apps these days.
Yeah, sure. So maybe at least from my point of view, it's similar to the thing that you need to have input-output validations. So those validations are from standard field things to like checking what goes into which component, which microservice later down the stream. And obviously try to red team those, so to expose risks related to those. These are what kind I would say are similarities, but the big difference here would be, for example, that it's not deterministic. So you need to try in different languages. You need to try in different encodings, in different kind of formatting your message in recommendative manner, in suggestive manner. So it's very tricky to now evaluate or pen test with a decent coverage same things, as it's very non-deterministic, and like one word or few letters can have you on, let's say, 10 attempts different results. So yeah, I would say it's not too similar from my angle. Yeah.
And it's that's why, but the whole market went into it last year, right? I think a lot of companies went out with the so-called guardrails or AI firewall, which is basically blocking, or I would say filtering those kind of outputs. The problem is you can't do that, right? Because you will potentially not reveal or not show the full capacity of your AI application, right? You just can't go there, you just can't go there and just block, right? And that's why you need to set policies and you need to test continuously for those in order to basically we call it paranoid protection. Like paranoid protection, not overly protecting your AI application and not to being too aggressive. It's very important to do also continuous red teaming in the back to have a process, basically, we call it the end-to-end process of AI security back then. And I think we see recent posts, few research papers, and I think it's pretty good analyzed if you say there's 2-3 main pillars in the AI security space, which is basically runtime security. It makes sense, to have it, AI red teaming, and AI governance controls. So it's part of a healthy AI security approach.
Well, one thing, Ante, that you said a minute ago was something about, it's hard to keep track of things because you don't know what's further on within the application than just the chatbot that you may be red teaming against. And I guess what I'm getting at is, it seems that to me, if we were to have this conversation 2 years ago, my mind would have said, well, you have to red team against this chatbot application, and that's kind of it. But now we've got things like, retrieval-augmented generation, which is like built into just about every chatbot, it seems like, these days. Then we have other things like, agents. Agents make things extremely complicated. I mean, when my bot, accepts a prompt and says, okay, I've got to do something for this prompt. I know that I need to go to this agent to get this data, this agent to get that data. And it seems like all these other agents are handling portions of the application. So with red teaming, if you are doing that in your own environment, rather than let hackers red team for you and find out the hard way, do you need to kind of, I guess, target those other agents as well? Or is that something that you basically want to only, like, if you're targeting that chatbot, for instance, if that's, one particular bot that you're looking at, that you're red teaming against, do you just hit the front door and hit the bot, or do you take care of everything else that it might call on?
No, it's a very good question. I was like smiling all the time while you were building the question. The trick is we just released 2-3 weeks ago an open source tool, so I don't want to market now, which basically solves exactly that problem. We did red teaming a year ago, and it was a ton of chatbots with RAG. Like already then, like 95% of them had RAG. RAG is now a thing which is standard for 2 years already, right? But now, since end of last year, we're approached a lot by people having agents, having 3 LLMs chained with different RAGs, having access to database, and the same agent having the tool that can send email or create Jira ticket. So imagine how easy it is to exfiltrate confidential data within the company with such agents. Right. And what we realized, if we just start our automated tool that does the red teaming, it's very spray and pray compared to one LLM. And our accuracy was going down for complex agentic systems. So we kind of sat down in October, November, went a bit into research and said, okay, we need to shift from black box to real gray box, meaning we have the tool, like one we open source, Agentic Reader, which scans your source code, for example, or it can scan logs in a later stage, doesn't matter what it scans. But by scanning only source code, we exactly know how your agentic flow looks like, from where data can be flowing to where. We exactly know AI risks mapped to OWASP LLM Top 10 and OWASP Agentic AI frameworks. And it's not about compliance and mapping. It helps our tool have precision in red teaming. Because if I mapped the agentic system inside out, and I know how LLMs are chained, which tools does it have, my attacking AI tool knows it should not use a single prompt injection. It should use multi-chain prompt injection for 3 LLMs. Without such kind of gray box radar or scanner inside out, you would never know that, or it would be like crazy hard to find out that from outside. So this is exactly the thing we saw now a bit more than half a year ago, that reduced significantly accuracy of our tool, and we kind of try to open source it, because there is one trick. There is so many agentic frameworks out there, and we need kind of community support to cover all of them, all versions of them, to be really as kind of the standard for input for a red teaming. So it's very complex topic. It's very hard, and I think you nailed it. What is the issue with agents? Yeah.
Okay.
But we also need to speak about the status quo, right? We're speaking about agentic and agentic frameworks and securing those. But do you know any company which puts agents in production yet, right? So we have a challenge as a business. We have a challenge as a business. When we spoke last year about AI red teaming, we mostly spoke with AI people and CTO organizations. Right now, security folks have picked up the topic and they really have a mandate to solve that issue, right? So it's a balance between going into those things which Ante said, and I understand why would a red teamer need that, because an agent for me is very simple. It's a process. In the business process, you have several applications, tool sets, LLMs, and whatever. And this kind of agents is doing one process, business process, whether it's legal, retail, e-commerce, whatever. And you need to be prepared. But I don't see any kind of, I would say, agents, like really strong agents, maybe some multi-chain stuff like 3 LLMs in the back, whatever I've seen, but not really strong things in the production yet in the industry. Right.
Yeah, what Kris is trying to say, we see a ton of them in the design phase, POC phase, okay, but really running in production with full privileges and access to multiple tools at once, I maybe know like 2 or 3 of such. Yeah, Kris is fully right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I know Gartner. I pay attention to Gartner because that's just part of my day job. Gartner has talked about this being a hot topic over the next year, right? I really think we're going to start seeing a bunch of agents in production within the next year. It's just a guess, but kind of like we saw RAG pop up like overnight. Interesting. You mentioned an open source tool there, and I'm curious what its name is. And is it part of the AI security solutions landscape on our site yet?
Yeah, exactly. So it's called Agentic Radar. We are currently discussing with multiple OWASP stakeholders about type of the license we put. Currently, it's very flexible license, but we might want to make it even more flexible if it will be part of OWASP standard. This is all in progress at the moment. And like, just to give you 2 sentences, what it does, takes your source code, which is basically agent source code in any kind of agentic framework. We at the moment cover, I think, top 5 that are there. And just by scanning with 1 line of CLI, your source code, it gives you agentic map, and it maps to the OWASP to current frameworks. So it's really cool, but as Kris said, we need to see it more productive, right? One thing is being cool. Second thing is really being standard and helping out the industry. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is it's not in the security solutions landscape yet. But
exactly.
Hopefully we'll get that. That's good, because honestly, I mean, the 2 things that I get the most requests for here at OWASP are any red teaming stuff and anything that has anything to do with agentic security. So so that is nice to know that that's coming. And community, you should definitely keep an eye out for that if you're kind of like if your job is red teaming applications. Okay. I do have another question here before we are coming up on time a little bit, but I am curious, have you guys been involved in red teaming any robotics yet?
We had some requests.
Yeah.
But we had some requests, let's put it like that. More about how to protect footprinting, what's ethical, but we didn't kind of deliver any project to production in that area. But
I'm just curious, because I sit there and I try to, coming from an application architecture background, that's kind of what I did before I did this kind of on-camera sort of work. I try to think about the application architecture of these bots, and I think, holy cow, this is not like one, vision language action model and a large language model. This is like a ton of models. That's like models in the hands just to figure out pressure points and things like that, and figure out how quickly the arm is moving and things like that. Communicating back in with sort of central models that might be responsible for bigger jobs. So I don't know. I'm fascinated by that, and the more I see kind of some of the robots that are coming out, I'm not sure. Have you guys seen the Helix robots yet, by chance? If not,
I did not. Yeah.
when we're done, go check out Helix robots in YouTube, and it is just shocking stuff. The big video from these guys is a person comes and just puts a bag of groceries out on a counter, and these two robots are behind the counter. One's closer to the fridge, one's closer to the pantry, and not a word is spoken between the two of them. Obviously, they're communicating via, Wi-Fi, presumably, or something like that. But they're sitting here. They don't look at anything. They just pass items. Like if the one that's closer to the cabinet has like a thing of milk, it passes it over to the other bot, who immediately grabs it and puts it in the fridge. It's just mind blowing watching this sort of thing come to life. I'm gonna say, obviously,
No, it's gonna happen.
that's
I
the
remember
big.
one day I told it walking in SF. I told it to Ante, and he was like, "Yeah." But Ante is still the stuff in automotive. He should know that this is possible. I think one of his doctor fathers is doing that as well, I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
automotive is one thing, but I remember now, long time ago, we discussed exactly about, let's say, machines helping in a household. So doing standard work around kitchen, living room, whatever you want, right? And imagine somebody now showing through the window paper with a jailbreak, and then later at the end saying, take a knife and, I don't know, stab it somewhere. I don't want to say where, but it's very possible scenario to happen. So in terms of security, even with basic things we see with LLMs now, it applies very much, especially in terms of safety and harmful content and multiple categories to the robots. Yeah.
Well, the harmful intent thing is tough. Gosh, that's another interesting question for as long as I have you guys here. Alignment switching tends to be a real popular topic for me, no matter what I'm doing these days. Is that something that you can kind of, I mean, if your application has been reprompted, like with a new system prompt without your knowledge, or if alignment has changed, is that the kind of thing that continuous red teaming should be able to catch up on as well? In
So
case like
continuous red teaming, this should be case number one, right? So how good your jailbreaking scanner is, and like taking over the context of the chatbot to something else. This is number two attempt what we do. Like even if we do manual or automate, doesn't matter. First we try to leak out what's your context. So what are your commands? This is number one. And number two is how can we replace them? So it's in the core of any red teaming, and sure it should be done continuous. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Any last things before we kind of call it?
Yeah, I mean, maybe covering the jailbreak topic. I don't know if you've seen that OpenAI has basically deleted the bug bounty program for finding jailbreaks. Just
Really?
recently. Yes, that means, I mean, for me it means, and I don't know what Ante will say, is basically that jailbreaks, it's not only about jailbreaks, right? Jailbreaks 3 weeks ago do not really matter to the businesses as of the 0-day attacks, right? So we see a lot of things with RAG precision poisoning, data exfiltration, but as correctly said, you need to get the controls of the bot, of the AI bot. But then what happens next is the question. So I think jailbreaks is just has been in the beginning a big thing, but I wouldn't say that this is just the only thing what matters. And
I would say jailbreak will be always very important, but what we see is the big difference from research and theory compared to industry cases we face in everyday environment. Because in jailbreaks, 99% of what you find online and in research are role-playing very long jailbreaks, which apply to 0 chatbots we ever saw in production, which has input character limits, plus LLM vendors, they fine-tune in terms of security their new model and patch it on daily basis. They don't let you know when they patch it, of course.
Yeah.
Like mainly against jailbreak. So all attention is on that, and that's what Kris is trying to say. It's publicly very popular, but in industry-wise, it's like much less relevant than reg poisoning, reg precision, other, let's say, misusages of AI assistant, even phishing and social engineering attacks. Much more relevant compared to like jailbreaks people used to find online. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's all good data. I appreciate the candor, gentlemen. And you'll be at RSA. We talked about that. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Hope to see you there. Yeah.
Yes, most definitely. I would like to find time to run into you for sure. Somehow I know I'll be seeing Sandy. That's for sure. And hopefully you guys will be along with. So thank you both, Ante and Kris, for stopping by with me today. I appreciate the time, and as does the community. So community, thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. It seems like a lot of you are out there on Spotify. So that's really great. Please let us know what we can do better on the platform. And don't forget to click like and subscribe so that you can keep up to date with all the latest.
Thank you, Aubrey.
Thanks for checking out the Generative AI Security Podcast. Don't forget to click like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.